There is a version of intelligence that the world loves to imagine. Calm, precise, quietly confident. The person who always knows what to say, always looks composed, always seems like their thoughts are neatly organized behind steady eyes. That is the image, the movie version, the version that gets made into a character, a brand, a fantasy. But here is what nobody talks about. The actual experience of a highly active mind is not calm. It is not precise. It is crowded. You are replaying a conversation from 11 years ago, not because something is wrong with you, but because something about it never fully resolved in your head. You are losing your keys while simultaneously mapping an abstract pattern you noticed in human behavior 3 weeks ago. You are awake at 4 a.m., not by choice, not because you planned it, but because a thought opened a door, and that door opened another, and before you realized it, 2 hours had disappeared into something you will never even use. You are brushing your teeth, completely alone, mentally winning an argument against someone who does not know the argument is happening. This is what a highly intelligent mind actually looks like from the inside, not sharp and polished, busy, dense, relentlessly running in the background even in silence. Especially in silence. Most people finish a conversation and move on. For you, the conversation continues. Not because you are anxious, not because something went wrong, but because your mind noticed something mid-sentence, a shift in tone, an unspoken tension, a tiny gap between what someone said and what they meant, and it filed it away as unresolved. And unresolved things do not disappear, they wait. This is what is different about a highly active mind. It does not process information and release it cleanly. It keeps running threads. There are open questions you are carrying from months ago. There are patterns you are still quietly connecting. There are thoughts that never fully concluded because they kept branching into more thoughts, and the branching never stopped. Your mind treats unfinished thinking the way most people treat unfinished tasks. It keeps them alive in the background, quietly running, quietly scanning, quietly waiting for resolution that may never come. You rarely experience mental silence. Even when nothing is happening around you, something is happening inside. The room can be completely still. The day can be completely ordinary, but the processing never really stops. And nobody sees that. They see you sitting quietly. What they do not see is how much is moving underneath. This is not a gift, not in the way people romanticize it. It is a weight, a quiet, constant, invisible weight. The mind that never clocks out does not rest just because the body does. It just switches from processing the world to processing itself. Here is something uncomfortable. The smarter someone is, the harder certainty becomes, not because they know less, but because they know too well how much they do not know. When most people look at a decision, they see the surface of it. The obvious options, the obvious risks, the most visible outcome. When your mind looks at the same decision, it does not stop there. It runs the alternatives. It maps the edges. It finds the hidden complications, the variables other people have not thought to consider, and it holds all of them at once. This should feel like power, and sometimes it does, but more often it feels like being stuck. Because the more possibilities you can see, the harder it becomes to choose one. The more outcomes you can simulate, the harder it becomes to feel confident. The more clearly you understand how wrong things can go, the harder it becomes to feel settled. Other people look decisive, and you wonder if there is something wrong with you if you are overthinking, overcomplicating, making simple things difficult. But you are not. You are just seeing more. And the problem with seeing more is that it does not come with more peace. It comes with more questions. There is a strange kind of imposter syndrome that lives here, too. Not the kind that says, I am not smart enough. The kind that says, I see how much I still do not understand. And if I can see that, how can anyone be confident about anything? Confidence often belongs to people who stop questioning early. You have not stopped. You may never stop. And that is not a failure of nerve. That is what it looks like to genuinely understand how complex reality is. The mountain is enormous. You are not a fraud for feeling small in front of it. You are just one of the few people who can actually see how tall it is. You leave a room and cannot remember why. You put something down and have no idea where. You walk past a task you told yourself to do and completely forget it existed. And then, 10 minutes later, you can describe in precise detail the emotional subtext of a film you saw 6 years ago, or explain a pattern you noticed in human decision-making, or remember an exact line from a book you read twice. This is not carelessness. Your mind has a natural hierarchy of what deserves attention, conceptual information, patterns, ideas that lead somewhere interesting. These get prioritized. Routine tasks, the repetitive, the logistical, the obvious, get moved to the background. And when your mental space is already full, they slip. You are not forgetting because you are absent. You are forgetting because something else has your full attention, even if you cannot always name what that something is. This one follows a pattern so consistent it almost becomes ritual. The day is full of noise. People, obligations, expectations, stimulation coming from every direction. And during all of it, your mind is managing, filtering, adapting, responding. It is functional, but it is also performing. Then the world gets quiet, and suddenly the thinking you could not do during the day has space. Night is not when you become restless. Night is when everything else finally becomes still enough for your actual thoughts to move freely. No interruptions, no context switching, no one needing a version of you that is easier to be around, just the thought and the next thought and the quiet pleasure of following something to its end. You stay up too late not because you are undisciplined. You stay up too late because the silence is the only time your mind can breathe. Out loud, under your breath, in the shower, on a walk, in the middle of a task. People notice this and treat it as quirky, but there is nothing random about it. Some minds think in layers that are hard to hold all at once inside the head. Too many branches, too many parallel directions moving simultaneously. Speaking pulls those layers into a single thread. When a thought is spoken, even softly, even alone, it becomes linear. It has a beginning, a sequence, a direction. What felt like a tangle inside becomes a path once it exists outside. Talking to yourself is not a sign that something is off. It is a sign that your thinking is complex enough to need an extra tool to organize it. This one surprises people. There is an assumption that intelligence means polished language, measured sentences, precise vocabulary, emotional restraint. But language, at its most honest, is not always polished. Sometimes an experience is too immediate, too sharp, too emotionally charged for neat language to carry it accurately. A well-placed expletive can communicate intensity, frustration, disbelief, or dark humor in ways that careful wording cannot. It is not a loss of control. It is a form of precision, choosing the word that fits the emotional weight of the moment, even when that word is not a proper one. People who value accuracy use the most accurate tool available. Sometimes that tool is not elegant, but it is honest. A crowded restaurant, a loud party, a long day with too many people. You leave these things exhausted in a way that does not quite match the explanation. It was tiring. Because it was not just tiring, it was dense. Your mind does not easily filter background information. Everything enters at roughly equal volume. The conversation you are in, the conversation 3 tables away, the way someone nearby keeps shifting in their seat, the ambient noise, the temperature, the lighting, the social dynamics of the room. Most people's minds quietly dismiss what is irrelevant. Yours tends to register it, not because you choose to, not because you are oversensitive in some fragile way, but because a mind built for pattern recognition does not switch off just because you would prefer it to. It keeps receiving, it keeps processing, it keeps noticing. And at the end of a day spent in environments full of competing input, you are not just tired. You are full, completely full, in a way that sleep barely touches. Something grabs your interest completely, fully, almost urgently. You research it for hours, you think about it across days, you talk about it to whoever will listen. And then without warning, it is gone. The interest does not fade slowly, it just stops. And you are left standing in a pile of half-finished notes and browser tabs wondering why you can never see anything through to the end. But this is not inconsistency. A mind that moves quickly reaches the depth of a subject faster than most. Once it has extracted what is genuinely new, once the novelty, the complexity, the challenge has been absorbed, there is less left to hold its attention. You are not fickle. You process quickly. And once the interesting part is done, the rest feels like repetition. What looks like lack of follow-through from the outside is often the natural endpoint of how your mind engages. Intelligence and emotional volume do not cancel each other out. If anything, they move together. A mind that notices more, interprets more, and holds more information also tends to feel more, because it understands the weight of things in greater detail. You do not just feel sad. You feel sad with full awareness of why, and what it connects to, and what it says about a broader pattern, and what it has felt like before, and what it might mean going forward. You do not just feel joy. You feel it alongside a quiet awareness of how temporary it is, which makes it more precious and more painful at the same time. Your emotional life is not separate from your thinking. It is wrapped up in it, and that is not weakness. That is what it looks like when a mind takes both thought and feeling seriously at the same time. Here is what no one tells you about living with a mind like this. It is not a superpower, not in the way it looks from outside. From outside, intelligence looks like ease, confidence, clarity. From inside, it often looks like exhaustion, like too many open doors, like thinking about thinking, like arriving somewhere mentally and not knowing how to just be there. You were probably told or made to feel that being intelligent meant you should have it more together, that you should be more organized, more productive, more emotionally stable, that the gift should make things easier. But a mind that processes deeply does not get a rest option. It does not have an idle mode. The chaotic sleep schedule is not laziness. The scattered attention is not failure. The emotional intensity is not immaturity. The forgetting is not carelessness. These are what constant cognitive engagement looks like when it has to live inside a human life. A life that also needs rest and routine and stillness and connection. You are not failing at any of this. You are carrying more mental activity than most people ever experience, often without language for it, often while being told to simply focus or calm down or just relax. You were never broken. You were never too much. You were just running a kind of mind that never fully learned how to stop, in a world that rarely made space for it. Your mind was built for depth, And depth, by its very nature, is never simple. If this hit home for you, or put words to something you have been carrying around for a while, please subscribe.